In today's video, we are going to be learning how to cut and sew this beautiful off-shoulder gather dress right here. You can make yours to be long or short depending on what you want, and you'll be needing about 2 yards to 3 yards or more depending on your body size and the length of the dress that you want to sew. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to be using a pattern paper to cut the dress, and the length and width of the pattern paper is as shown. So I've drawn a straight line from the top of the paper, and now from this straight line I'm going to be marking my bust line, my under bust line, my waistline. I'm using my back waistline measurements, which is 15 inches, and then my hip line, which is 23 inches. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the paper, and I'll use this to draw a straight line and label it accordingly. Then after that, from this bust line I'll go up by 2 inches, and that will be the chest line for this particular dress. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll divide my shoulder by 2, and what I got is 7 inches. So I'm marking 7 inches on the top of the paper and also on the chest line. And then from here I'm going to go down by 1 inch, while on the top line here I'm going to mark 3 inches, which is the neck width. Then from this neck width I'm going to draw a straight line connecting it to that 1 inch point like this, while I will also go down from this point drawing a straight line like this. Then after that, on the chest line I'm going to divide my bust by 4, and I'll mark it there, while I'll divide from here to here, I'll divide it by 2, that's the midpoint, and I'll mark it. Then from here with my front curve I'm going to connect it drawing the armhole of this like this. Then from that midpoint again you can go in by half an inch to draw the armhole for the front. So we are not going to be using this armhole. I'm just using this as a guide to cut the main armhole for this dress. So the next thing we are going to do is to mark out our off shoulder line. So from the top line mark 5 inches, and with your straight rule you're going to connect it drawing a straight line. So this will be the off shoulder point. That is where the dress is going to start from. And then on the waistline I'm going to divide my waist by 4. I'll mark it on the waistline, while on the hip line I'll divide my hip by 4 and I'll mark it there. Then with my straight rule I'm going to connect it to the chest line, and then from the waistline I'll connect it to the hip line. But here I'm going to be curving it a little bit because this is the hip part of the dress. And then from here I'm going to go down by 2.5 inches, while from the hip line I'm going to go down by 2 inches right here. And then from that 2 inches point mark 1.5 inches, and then with your front curve you're going to connect it like this. So just make sure you connect all these 3 points together. So after that, on the off shoulder line I'm going to be going in by 2 inches at this point right here. The essence of this is to tighten the neckline of this dress. If you use it as it is, it's going to be really loose, and we want it to be fitted around our chest. So we're just going to connect it to the chest line like this. So this will be the new armhole for this dress. And then for this point, if you notice that the dress is V at this point, so don't worry, I'm going to show you how you can achieve that V neckline during the course of the video. From this point I'm going to measure from here all the way to where that 2.5 inches stop, and what I got is 17.5 inches. So I'll just mark right down that 17.5 inches right there. And then the length of the dress that I want to use is about 35 inches. So if you want yours to be long, that means you should be calculating about 40-50 inches depending on your body. Then my 35 inches I'm going to minus 17.5 from that 35 inches, and what I got is 17.5 inches. So this will be the length I'll be using when I'm cutting the down part of the dress, which is the gathered part of the dress. So just take note of your own measurements and write it down somewhere. Then after that I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. Then by the time you're done, you open this up. This is what it looks like right here. What we are going to do on this pattern paper is I'm just going to go ahead and cut this through the underbust area. So you can either cut it through the waistline or the underbust depending on where you want the joining to be. So on this center front right here, I'm going to be running a gather stitch, or you can use elastic to gather it so that you can have that V-shape neckline that we have on the dress. So you gather it, not too much, just gather it a little bit so that that V shape will be formed after you are done. Then by the time you are done cutting it on the fabric and gathering it to form the V shape, you can now go ahead and join it to the down part of the dress. So when you're cutting on the fabric, remember to add your 1/2 inch sewing allowance and then 1 inch to the side seam. Okay, so after we are done with this, I'm going to be working on this part right here, and what I'm going to do is I'll measure from the side seam on the left side through the curve part all the way to the side seam on the right side, and what I have is about 26 inches. So if you want to cut the down part of the dress, which is the gathered part, you're going to times 26 inches by 3 or 26 inches by 4. So let's assume that this is the fabric that we have. So the length of the fabric should be 17.5 that we got, and then you can still go ahead and add about 2 inches for sewing allowance. That is about 19.5 inches as the length, while the width of it should be 26 times 3, which is 78. So the width of the fabric should be 78 inches. Then after you're done, you're going to gather the fabric, and then now you're going to be joining it on the down part of the dress, that is at this curved area. So for this sleeve, what we are going to do is we are going to be assuming this is the fabric that we are going to use for the sleeve, okay? So the length of the fabric should be 10 inches, or depending on how long you want your sleeve to be, while the width of the fabric should be just measure from where the elastic band is supposed to start from in front all the way to where the elastic band is going to end at the back. So what I have is 9 inches, so just times that 9 inches by 3, and what I have is 27. So the length of the width of the fabric should be 27, while the length should be 10 inches. And then the elastic is going to be that 9 inches that we have while we measured from the elastic from the front all the way to the back. You can reduce it to 8 inches if you want it to be fitted around that area. So that's basically it for the sleeve. So the down part is also going to be the same thing, 27 inches. And then the elastic, you can use 9 inches for the down part, or you can just measure around where the sleeve is going to end and use that as the length of your elastic.